By the time the tow truck driver figured out this wasn't merely a local squabble, Brenda Lofton had already locked herself with chains to the incorrect gate. "I will not acknowledge this obstruction," she yelled, draped in a flowered cardigan and her HOA lanyard, her arms threaded through the metal bars of my newly welded farm gate. On the opposite side of that barrier, 40 acres of pine forest and open pasture lay calm and indifferent. Farther back, in a collapsible camp chair, I sat holding a mug of coffee, my ball cap pulled down low, observing the unfolding drama as if it were a live broadcast. 2 sheriff's deputies, a county surveyor, and a code enforcement officer stood on the gravel driveway separating Brenda from the peaceful county road. The tow truck engine rumbled uneasily in the background. "Ma'am," one deputy repeated for the 5th time, "this gate is located on his private property. Your HOA holds no authority here." Brenda shook the chain forcefully. "This roadway serves as the entry to Willow Trace. It provides community access. That gate represents a psychological intimidation." I took another sip of coffee, fairly certain it's simply made of steel. The county surveyor collapsed his tripod and indicated the map. "The psychological intimidation ceases," he explained. "Precisely 6 feet bear that gate, exactly where the HOA boundary ends." The deputy faced me. "Mr. Hale, would you like to file charges for trespassing and vandalism?" I looked pointedly at the damaged old lock and the bolt cutters, still resting in the dirt where Brenda had let them fall. "Absolutely," I replied amiably. "We should certainly discuss that." 3 months prior, I had been the least exciting resident in Willow Trace. I worked as an IT consultant from home, drove a dusty Tacoma pickup, and possessed just 2 lawn decorations, a worn bird bath, and a solar pathway light that functioned only on Thursdays. I had purchased the final house on the cul-de-sac, the one that bordered a dense, overgrown woodland and an ancient barbed wire fence. I appreciated it because nothing lay behind me except trees, deer, and unreliable Wi-Fi. My pastimes included restoring vintage tools in my garage, strolling along the tree line in the evenings, and avoiding conversations with strangers, which positioned me as a natural adversary to the HOA president. Enter Brenda Lofton, the self-designated protector of Willow Trace's curb appeal and neighborhood principles. Brenda was the sort of woman who laminated every document and deployed expressions like, "per my last email," in conversation. Her golf cart featured a small clipboard attached to the dashboard. She wore a name badge declaring "President" even while simply wheeling out her garbage. Willow Trace itself was one of those subdivisions that overreached in its efforts. Phony stone entrance sign, matching craftsman-style lanterns, and a quarterly newsletter that mentioned the word "charm" 6 times. I reviewed the covenants before purchasing. They were irritating, but tolerable. No parking on grass. No RVs in driveways. Approved paint colors only. Pine. I could manage with beige walls and a plain mailbox. Brenda located me within a week. "Regardless, you have an unapproved type of mulch," she declared on day 5, glaring at my flower bed as though it had offended her directly. I gazed back. "It's brown," she huffed. "It's pine straw. The guidelines suggest hardwood bark for a consistent appearance." I shrugged. "It was here when I bought the house." "You'll need to be more diligent than the prior owner, Marcus," she warned, pronouncing my name like a challenge. "Willow Trace maintains standards." I nodded, feigned interest, and returned to my peaceful routine. Then the for sale sign appeared on the 40-acre parcel behind the fence. The land backing my property had belonged to the original farm long before Willow Trace existed. It consisted of 40 acres of rough pines, a winding creek, and 1 sagging barn. The developer had attempted to acquire it and been rebuffed. The elderly farmer had declined to sell to those uniform cul-de-sac builders, and included it in his will. No sale to the HOA or its developer, ever. When the farmer's children eventually sold it, they sold it to me. I discreetly completed the purchase, marked the boundary with flags alongside the county surveyor, and stood there one evening surveying my forest, my creek, my dilapidated barn. "I'm going to build a workshop back there, perhaps a garden, maybe some beehives, and I'm going to secure that gate thoroughly." The sole vehicle access followed the rear of Willow Trace, an aged gravel farm road that connected to the county road right before the ornate stone, "Welcome to Willow Trace" sign. Technically, half of that road fell inside the subdivision plat. The remaining half and all beyond now belonged to me. I hired a contractor to widen the road slightly, lay new gravel, and mount a sturdy steel farm gate precisely where my property began. I welded a straightforward sign to it: private land, no HOA jurisdiction. Yes, really. The sign was primarily for my own entertainment. Brenda interpreted it as an outright proclamation of conflict. The emails commenced. "Dear Mr. Hale, the Willow Trace HOA does not allow gates at the community entrance without architectural review approval. Please dismantle the unapproved obstruction within 7 days or incur fines." I responded once courteously, attaching the county plat map with a useful red circle highlighting my property line. "Hi Brand, gate on my land outside HOA boundaries. No approval required. Best regards, Marcus." Her subsequent email skipped formalities. "You are generating a hostile visual atmosphere at our community entrance. This is unacceptable. The board will pursue enforcement actions." Then arrived the violation notices. Unauthorized structure affecting curb appeal. Obstruction of community access. Threatening signage. Threatening signage, I discovered, referred to the phrase, "no HOA jurisdiction." I disregarded the notices. Consequently, Brenda intensified her efforts. She began informing neighbors that I planned to construct a compound. She cautioned parents against allowing children near the gate, as if it led to Mordor. She contacted code enforcement who visited, examined the gate, reviewed the plat map, shrugged, and departed. She attempted the county planning department, which stated it was a farm gate on private property and declined involvement. She even slipped a handwritten note through the chain links. This energy is very aggressive. Willow Trace is about community, not barriers. I attached it to my refrigerator like admirer correspondence. Then one morning discovered the gate swung wide open. The substantial padlock rested in the gravel, severed cleanly. Tire marks extended down my road into the woods. I traced them. They ended at my barn, where someone had affixed a large laminated sign to the aged planks, "Future site of Willow Trace Community Green Belt Expansion." I stood there studying the sign in quiet, a slow and icy sensation twisting inside my chest. "All right," I murmured. "We're finished with games." I phoned the sheriff. Deputies arrived, photographed the cut lock, the tire tracks, and the unauthorized sign. They shrugged sympathetically, but cautioned that without security footage or a witness, proving the culprit would be difficult. I expressed my thanks, mounted 2 trail cameras aimed directly at the gate, and swapped the lock for one that would make bolt cutters weep. Then I waited patiently. Brenda, in the meantime, intensified her campaign. She distributed an HOA newsletter declaring a proposed green belt expansion to more seamlessly connect our neighborhood with the adjacent natural landscape. She attached a map that colored my property in the HOA's signature brochure green. A small footnote read, "Finalization subject to legal and zoning approval." There was no such approval. It was purely Brenda's fantasy and a color printer. She started attempting to organize guided nature walks along my private road. I declined each request with single-line emails. "No, private property." Every refusal only heightened her desperation. So, she resorted to what cornered petty tyrants do when challenged by real authority. She fabricated reports to higher officials. First, she contacted county zoning, alleging I was unlawfully storing vehicles and hazardous waste on the parcel. I was not. I owned 1 tractor and 1 deeply insulted owl. Next, she alerted the fire marshal, insisting the gate obstructed emergency access for the entire subdivision. Then she phoned animal control, claiming potential livestock neglect after spotting fencing and structures on satellite imagery. None of those complaints gained traction, so Brenda took direct action. One bright Tuesday morning, the trail camera recorded Brenda's white crossover arriving. Brenda emerges with bolt cutters. Brenda wassevering my reinforced lock and hurling it into the brush. Brenda's proceeding down my private road, accompanied by 2 HOA board members. halting at the barn and fastening yet another sign to my building. Willow Trace Residents Welcome. Green Belt Access. The cameras captured it all: date, time, her face, her license plate, the bolt cutters, the sign. I emailed the footage to the sheriff's office with a single sentence: I would like to press formal charges now. The detective who responded no longer appeared disinterested. Criminal trespass, he noted while viewing the video on my laptop. Criminal mischief for the lock. Potentially attempted land encroachment if sure wielding HOA power to seize your property. And she brought reinforcements. He froze the frame on Brenda's unmistakable face. Mr. Hale, would you object if we shared this with the county prosecutor? I leaned back, hearing evening descend across my 40 acres. Not at all. The knock at Brenda's door arrived at 7:30 a.m., just as she stepped onto her porch clutching her clipboard for the daily trash bin inspection. 2 deputies waited on the welcome mat. Mrs. Lofton? One inquired. She beamed. Good morning, officers. Is this regarding the unlawful gate obstructing our neighborhood? Ma'am, you are under arrest for criminal trespass and criminal mischief. Her smile collapsed mid-syllable. Pardon me. They recited her rights as half of Willow Trace peered through parted blinds like audience members at a play. Brenda was booked, fingerprinted, and released on bail, seething with righteous outrage, insisting to anyone within earshot that it was merely a misunderstanding and legitimate association business. The county prosecutor disagreed. Between the trail camera evidence, her newsletters, and the shaded green belt map, a clear pattern emerged: an HOA president attempting to extend her dominion over private land through harassment and destruction. Then the county's civil division entered the picture. They examined the Willow Trace covenants, plat maps, and original farm parcel documents. They confirmed the HOA boundary ended precisely where my gate now stood. No easement crossed my property for subdivision use. There existed no legal foundation for any greenbelt assertions. They also discovered Brenda had utilized HOA stationery and dues to promote her greenbelt delusion. So they took 2 actions: advance the criminal prosecution and firmly advise the HOA board to retain separate legal counsel without delay. The board, formerly Brenda's obedient echo chamber, scattered in panic like startled birds before a predator. They convened an emergency session. I received an invitation legally mandated. In fact, since my land lay at the heart of the matter, the HOA attorney, an exhausted man in an impeccably tailored suit, explained it plainly to the board. Your president unlawfully entered Mr. Hale's property, destroyed his gate, and tried to exert HOA control over land you have no claim to. She has exposed this association to substantial liability. One board member whimpered, but she said it was the county road. She was incorrect, the attorney stated bluntly, and you supported her. The positive aspect is that you can begin correcting this immediately. He pushed a document across the table. First step: remove her as president. The local courtroom was modest, harshly lit by fluorescents, and packed. Word had spread quickly. HOA president facing trial over neighbor's gate. Spectators arrived from outside Willow Trace simply for the spectacle. I sat calmly in the second row beside my attorney. Brenda occupied the defense table, jaw tight, wearing a blazer one hue shy of the HOA's branded color. The prosecutor projected the trail camera footage onto a large screen. There was Brenda, enlarged and undeniable, advancing with bolt cutters as if assaulting the Bastille. There she was, slicing the lock, discarding it carelessly, and motoring through the gate she had labeled a critical obstruction. The judge observed without expression. Mrs. Lofton, the prosecutor asked, did you possess permission to enter Mr. Hale's property that day? She drew herself up. As HOA president, I bear responsibility for all community access routes and facilities. The judge lifted an eyebrow. Is his property included in the HOA? Not formally, but it is contiguous and visually unified, and the Green Belt Initiative, so that is a no, the judge interjected. You lacked permission. Her lawyer attempted to frame it as a boundary confusion. The judge remained unconvinced. Boundary confusions rarely require bolt cutters, he remarked. Dri lied. In the corridor outside, regional journalists were already jotting notes. Ultimately, the judge spared her incarceration, but the punishment struck deeply in HOA circles. Guilty on charges of criminal trespass and criminal mischief. Fines amounting to $3,500. Restitution for the ruined gate and lock. An additional $800. 1 year of probation, including mandatory courses on property rights and dispute resolution, and then the final flourish, pronounced with judicial indifference. Furthermore, considering the established pattern of conduct, this court deems it fitting to bar Mrs. Lofton from holding any leadership role in homeowners associations, condominium boards, or comparable organizations within this county for the full term of her probation. The air seemed to vanish from her lungs. Her complexion shifted from flushed to pale to a mottled violet. She remained rigid at the defense table, mouth working soundlessly, like a fish gasping on dry land. Words failing her entirely, the gavel fell with a decisive thud, and Brenda Lofton, former self-anointed defender of Willow Trace, slumped into her seat, gazing blankly ahead, her whole sense of self dismantled in one unemotional ruling.